One moment she was standing at the presentation screen, explaining the mineral composition of the border world below. The next moment her legs buckled and she crashed to the floor. The sound of her body hitting the metal deck echoed through the room like a gunshot. Ji-won was the first to reach her. She dropped to her knees beside Hana, rolling her onto her back. What she saw made her blood run cold. Hana's skin, normally a soft blue-gray with a gentle inner glow, was dimming. The light beneath her skin flickered like a dying star. "Get medical," Ji-won shouted, but someone was already running for the door. Captain Minho stood frozen for just a second. He had been sitting across the table, listening to Hana's presentation about possible mining operations. Now he watched as the Valari woman gasped for air, her hands clutching at her chest. Her eyes were wide with pain and something else. Fear. Real deep fear. The human delegation around the table rose to their feet. Lieutenant Suho moved toward Hana, medical training kicking in, but Ji-won held up a hand to stop him. "Don't touch her," Ji-won said. Her voice was shaking. "Please. You can't help." Minho stepped closer anyway. "What happened?" "What's wrong with her?" Ji-won looked up at him, and Minho saw tears forming in her eyes. "Velshara," she whispered. The word meant nothing to him, but the way she said it made his chest tighten. The medical bay doors burst open and 2 more Valari rushed in with a floating stretcher. They moved with practiced efficiency, lifting Hana onto the stretcher and securing her with soft restraints. Minho noticed how careful they were, how gently they handled her as if she might shatter like glass. Dayun, the chief medical officer for the Valari delegation, ran into the room behind them. She took one look at Hana and her face went pale. Even with alien features, Minho could read that expression. It was the look of someone seeing a death sentence. "How long?" Dayun asked Ji-won. "She went down about 2 minutes ago." The dimming started immediately. Dayun nodded and began scanning Hana with a handheld device. The readings made her close her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, she looked at the humans gathered around. "Captain Minho," she said formally. "I apologize, but we must cut this meeting short." "This is a medical emergency." "Of course," Minho said. "Is there anything we can do?" "Our medical bay has advanced equipment. Our doctor could assist." "No." Dayun's voice was firm but not unkind. "Thank you, but human medicine cannot help her. This is a Valari matter." The medical team moved Hana toward the door. As they passed, Minho got a closer look at her. Her breathing was shallow and rapid. The glow under her skin was fading more with each second. Her fingers twitched, and he saw something that looked like tiny crystals forming under the surface of her skin on her hands. "What kind of illness causes that?" Suho asked quietly, standing beside Minho. "I don't know," Minho admitted, "but I've never seen them this scared before." The Valari delegation followed their medical team out, leaving the humans alone in the conference room. The presentation screen still showed Hana's charts and graphs frozen on her last slide. Minho stared at it, then looked down at the spot where she had fallen. There was no blood, no sign of what had happened. She had just collapsed. "Should we contact the station commander?" Engineer Heejin asked. Minho nodded slowly. "Yes, let them know the Valari delegate is ill and the meeting is postponed." He paused. "And find out what Velshara means." 2 hours later, Minho stood outside the medical bay. Through the transparent door, he could see the Valari gathered around Hana's bed. She was inside some kind of containment unit, a clear pod filled with blue mist. The light under her skin was barely visible now, just tiny sparks in the growing darkness. The station's database had very little information about Velshara. Just a single line in a cultural reference file. "Ancient poison, composition unknown, fatal to Valari." That was all. No medical data, no chemical breakdown, nothing that could help. Dayun emerged from the medical bay looking exhausted. She saw Minho waiting and walked over to him. "How is she?" Minho asked. "Dying," Dayun said bluntly. "She has perhaps 3 days, maybe less." "What is Velshara?" "Our database has almost nothing." Dayun was quiet for a moment, considering her words. "It is a poison. Very old, very rare. It comes from a flower that grows only on our homeworld. Long ago it was used for executions of the worst criminals." "An execution poison," Minho said. "Someone poisoned her?" "It appears so. We are investigating how it happened, but right now my concern is saving her life." Dayun's shoulders sagged, "Though I do not know if that is possible." "Is there an antidote?" Yes, on our homeworld. But we are 3 weeks away at best speed. She does not have 3 weeks. Minho felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Can you synthesize it? Make it here? We are trying. But the antidote requires components from the same flower, components we do not have. We sent a message home begging for any nearby ships to bring it, but there are none close enough. Daeun looked back at the medical bay. She is one of our best scientists, kind, brilliant. She did not deserve this. No one deserves this, Minho said. Daeun studied him for a moment. You seem concerned, Captain. You barely know her. I don't need to know someone well to want them to live, Minho said simply. Something shifted in Daeun's expression. Respect, maybe? She nodded slowly. Your species is strange to us, but I am beginning to see why the Council wanted these talks. She turned to go back inside. I must return to her. There is little I can do, but I will not leave her alone. Minho watched through the door as Daeun returned to Hana's bedside. Inside the pod, Hana's eyes were closed. The crystals under her skin were spreading up her arms now, visible even from where he stood. He thought about poison designed specifically for one species, about a woman dying light years from any hope of survival. He turned and walked toward his quarters. Suho and Heejin were waiting in the corridor. Captain? Suho asked. Get me every piece of xenobiology data we have, Minho said. Everything on Valari physiology. Everything on poisons that affect silicon-based biology. Everything. Sir, they said human medicine can't help. Minho stopped and looked at his crew. Then we find something that isn't human medicine. We have 3 days. Get me that data. They nodded and hurried off. Minho continued to his quarters, his mind already racing. There had to be something, some connection, some possibility they weren't seeing. He refused to believe that someone would die simply because they were too far from home. Minho could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Hana collapsing. He saw the light fading from her skin. He saw the crystals spreading. His quarters were dark except for the glow of multiple screens. Data scrolled past his eyes. Chemical formulas. Biological charts. Everything humanity had learned about the Valari species, which was not nearly enough. They had only made first contact with the Valari 20 years ago. Most of their biology was still a mystery. Suho had brought him files from the ship's medical database. Hyejin had pulled research papers from Earth universities. It was a mountain of information, but none of it was about Velshara. The Valari had kept that secret locked tight. Minho rubbed his eyes and pulled up another file. This one was about silicon-based life forms in general. The Valari were not fully silicon-based. They were what scientists called a hybrid species, part carbon like humans, part silicon, which made them unique. Their bones had silicon compounds. Their blood carried silicon particles that created the glow under their skin. It was beautiful and strange. And it was killing Hana. The door chimed. Minho glanced at the time. It was 4 a.m, station time. Come in, he said. Suho and Hyejin entered, both looking as tired as he felt. Suho carried a tablet. Hyejin had 2 cups of coffee. You're still awake, Hyejin said, handing him a cup. Can't stop, Minho admitted. He took the coffee gratefully. There has to be something we're missing. Suho sat down across from him. Captain, I've been reading everything I can find. The Valari biology is just too different from ours. We don't have compatible medicine. We don't even use the same base chemistry for most treatments. I know, Minho said, but there has to be a connection somewhere.
Life is life.
At some level, we all work on the same basic principles, do we? Hyejin asked gently. Captain, they evolved on a world with different gravity, different atmosphere, different everything. Their proteins are not like our proteins. Their cells work differently. Minho stared at the screens. She was right. He knew she was right, but he could not accept it. Let me see what you found, he said to Suho. Suho passed over the tablet. This is everything I could find about silicon-based toxins. But Captain, most of this is theoretical. We don't have real data on poisons that affect the Valari specifically. Minho scrolled through the file, page after page of complex chemistry. His eyes started to blur. He forced himself to focus, then something caught his attention. A side note in one of the research papers. It was about protein chains. The paper said that silicon-based life forms needed very specific protein structures to bond silicon and carbon together in their cells. Without these proteins, the silicon would crystallize. It would turn solid. It would kill the organism. This, Minho said, pointing at the screen. Suho, look at this. Suho leaned over. Protein bonding structures. What about them? If Velshara is a poison specific to the Valari, it must attack these protein chains. It makes the silicon crystallize. That's what we're seeing happen to Hana. Her silicon components are turning solid. Hyejin frowned. That makes sense. But how does that help us? We can't synthesize Valari proteins, Minho was quiet, thinking. Then he pulled up another file. Hyejin, remember your evolutionary biology classes? Humans had all kinds of weird proteins in our evolutionary past. Things that served purposes millions of years ago but don't do anything now. Vestigial proteins, yes. What about them? Are any of them designed to handle silicon bonding? Hyejin blinked. I don't know. Why would they be? Earth doesn't have silicon-based life, doesn't it? Minho pulled up another screen. There are organisms on Earth that use silicon. Diatoms, radiolarians. They build shells out of silicon compounds. And humans evolved in the same oceans where those organisms lived. Suho sat up straighter. You think humans might have developed proteins to handle silicon? Maybe a long time ago. Proteins that don't do anything anymore but are still in our DNA. Minho looked at them both. It's a long shot. But I need to know if any human proteins can interact with silicon the way Valari proteins do. That would take days of research, Hyejin said. Maybe weeks. Medical computer analysis, genetic sequencing. We have 3 days, Minho said. Let's start now. They worked through the night. Minho sent requests to the station's medical computer. He called in favors from doctor friends back on Earth, waking them up to ask strange questions about evolutionary biology. Suho and Hyejin combed through genetic databases, looking for anything that might help. As the station's morning cycle began, Minho found himself back outside the medical bay. Through the transparent door, he could see Hana in her pod. The crystals had spread further. They covered her arms now, glittering under the blue mist. She was awake, but her eyes were distant with pain. Daeun was still there, sitting beside the pod. She looked like she had not slept either. Minho entered quietly. Daeun looked up, surprised to see him. Captain, she said, you should not be here. This is private. I need to ask you about the poison, Minho said. About how it works. Daeun stood, placing herself between Minho and Hana's pod. I told you yesterday. Human medicine cannot help, I know. But I need to understand anyway, please. Something in his voice must have convinced her. Daeun sighed and gestured to a screen beside the pod. Very well. What do you want to know? The mechanism. How does Velshara kill? Daeun pulled up a molecular diagram. It bonds to a specific protein chain in Valari cells. This protein is what allows us to integrate silicon into our biological structure. When the poison bonds to it, the protein stops working. The silicon in our blood and organs begins to crystallize. It spreads through the body until the organs become solid. Death follows. This protein, Minho said, studying the diagram. Is it unique to your species? Yes. No other known species has this exact protein structure. It evolved only in us because our world has high levels of silicon in the soil and water. We adapted to use it. Minho felt his heart beating faster. What if another species had something similar? A protein that was not exactly the same but close. Close enough to maybe interact with the poison? Dan frowned. That is impossible. This protein is incredibly specific. The odds of another species developing something similar are astronomical, but not zero. Not zero, Daeun admitted, but so close to zero that it makes no difference. Why do you ask? Minho pulled out his tablet. Because humans have something. It's not the same as your protein, but it's similar. 73% similar in structure. Daeun took the tablet from him, her eyes widening as she read. Where did you get this data? I found it last night. In our evolutionary biology records. It's a vestigial protein. It doesn't do anything in modern humans. But millions of years ago, it helped our ancestors deal with silicon compounds in the ocean. Our immune system learned to create antibodies against it. Antibodies, Daeun repeated slowly. She looked at the data, then at Hana, then back at Minho. You think human antibodies might attack the poison? I don't know. Maybe. The structural similarity is there. If the antibodies mistake the poison for this old protein chain, they might bind to it. They might break it down before it fully crystallizes her organs. Daeun was quiet for a long time. She studied the data carefully, running calculations on her own device. Finally, she looked up at Minho. This is highly theoretical, she said. The similarity is there, yes, but we would need to introduce human blood into her system. Human antibodies. The compatibility risks are enormous. It could kill her faster. She's dying anyway, Minho said quietly. Yes, Dayun admitted. She is. Through the pod's clear surface, Hana turned her head slightly, looking at them. Her eyes focused on Minho. Even through the pain, she seemed curious about what they were discussing. I need to think about this, Dayun said. And I need to discuss it with Hana. This is her choice, not mine. Minho nodded. Of course. But Dayun? We're running out of time. I know, she said softly. Believe me, I know. Minho left the medical bay, his hands shaking. He had found something. Maybe. Possibly. It was a thread of hope so thin it might snap at any moment. But it was there. He just had to convince them to try it. Day 2 arrived with no improvement. Hana was worse. Minho stood in the observation area outside medical bay, watching through the window. The crystals had spread to Hana's chest now. They glittered beneath her skin like broken glass. Every breath she took seemed painful. The light that had once glowed softly inside her was nearly gone, just flickers in the darkness. Jiwan sat beside the pod, holding a scanner in her hands. She was not doing anything with it. Just holding it. Just being there. Minho understood. When there was nothing you could do, sometimes presence was enough. Dayun approached him from behind. Captain Minho, he turned. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes that even her alien features could not hide. Has she made a decision? Minho asked. She wants to speak with you. Before she decides, Dayun paused. I must warn you. Ambassador Yuna is not pleased about your research. She believes you are prying into Valari secrets. I'm trying to save a life. I know, and I told her that. But politics and medicine do not always agree. Dayun gestured toward the medical bay. You may enter, but please be brief. She is very weak. Minho entered the medical bay. Jiwan looked up as he approached, her expression unreadable. She stood and moved aside, giving him space beside the pod. Up close, Hana looked even worse. The crystals covered most of her visible skin now. Her breathing was shallow, but her eyes were clear and focused as she looked at him. Captain, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper, filtered through the pod's communication system. Hana, Minho said. How are you feeling? A weak smile crossed her face. Like I am turning to stone, slowly. She paused to breathe. Dayun showed me your research. The protein similarity, the antibodies. It's theoretical, Minho admitted. I can't promise it will work. But the structural match is there. Your protein and the human vestigial protein share enough similarity that the antibodies might recognize the poison. Might, Hana repeated. That is a very uncertain word. Yes, I wish I could give you more certainty. Hana was quiet for a moment, just breathing. Each breath seemed to cost her energy she did not have. Do you know why Velshar is so secret? Why my people do not share information about it? No, because it is shameful. It was used for executions, yes, but only for those who betrayed the collective. Those who put themselves above the good of all. She closed her eyes. Someone poisoned me, Captain. Someone from my own people. That means someone believes I am a traitor. Minho felt a chill run through him. That's impossible. You're a scientist, a diplomat. Yes, but I have been pushing for closer ties with humanity, for sharing knowledge and resources. Some of my people do not want that. They think humans are dangerous, unpredictable. She opened her eyes again, looking directly at him. They poisoned me to prove their point. To show what happens when we get too close to your kind. That's murder. It is a statement. Hana coughed, and the pod filled with vapor to soothe her throat. And now you, a human, are offering your blood to save me. The irony is almost funny. I don't care about irony, Minho said. I care about keeping you alive. Why? Hana asked. You barely know me. We have spoken only a few times in meetings. Why risk yourself for me? Minho considered the question. He had asked himself the same thing multiple times over the past 2 days. Because I can't stand by and watch someone die when I might be able to help. Because every life has value. Because if our species are going to work together, we need to prove that we care about each other. He paused, and because it's the right thing to do. Hana studied him for a long moment. Your species is very strange. I've heard that before. No, I mean it. You barely know our biology. The odds of this working are very small. The odds of it making me worse are high. And yet you cut yourself open in research labs, testing your own blood, trying to find a way. She smiled weakly. We would never do that. We are logical, careful, we calculate risks. Sometimes risks are worth taking, are they? Hana's expression grew sad. Captain, I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we try your treatment and it fails, it will be used against humanity. Ambassador Yuna already distrusts your kind. If a human treatment kills me, she will say you poisoned me further. She will end these talks. Our species may never cooperate again. Minho felt the weight of those words. And if we do nothing, I die. But I die of Valari poison. The blame stays with my own people. The talks might continue. That's not acceptable. Perhaps not to you, but it is logical. Minho leaned closer to the pod. Hana, I'm not going to lie to you. This might not work. I've never been more uncertain about anything in my life. But I've looked at the data hundreds of times. The protein structures are similar enough that there's a real chance the antibodies will bind to the poison, a real chance they'll break it down. He put his hand against the pod's surface. But more than that, I believe we have to try. Because if we don't, if we just accept that you'll die because you're far from home, then what's the point of our species meeting at all? Hana reached up with a crystallized hand, placing it against the pod's inner surface where his hand rested. The crystals caught the light sparkling. Daeun says the transfusion would need to be direct. Your blood flowing into my veins. It would take hours. You would be weakened. I know. And if my body rejects the foreign blood, if I go into shock, you would have to watch me die knowing you caused it. I know that too. You are either very brave or very foolish. Captain? Probably both, Minho admitted. Hana laughed, then coughed again. When she spoke next, her voice was even weaker. I am a scientist. I trust data. Your data shows a possibility. A small one, but a possibility. She paused. I am also dying. In another day, maybe less, the crystals will reach my heart and lungs. Then nothing will save me. So I choose to try. Not because I am certain it will work, but because you are right. If our species cannot take risks for each other, then what is the point? She smiled at him. Besides, I am curious. If I survive this, I will have human antibodies in my system. I will be the first Valari ever to carry human blood. That is worth something for science. Minho felt relief flood through him. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. We do not know if this will work. Hana's eyes grew heavy. But thank you for trying. That means more than you know. Daeun entered the room. She had obviously been listening through the communication system. If we are going to do this, we need to prepare. Captain, I need to run compatibility tests on your blood. Full panel. It will take a few hours. Do it, Minho said. And I need to inform Ambassador Yuna. She will not be happy. Let me talk to her, Hana said weakly. This is my choice. My risk. Very well. Daeun began pulling up medical screens. Captain, follow me. We have much work to do. As Minho left the medical bay, he looked back at Hana one more time. She was watching him, her crystallized hand still raised against the pod's surface. He hoped desperately that this would work, that the ancient proteins in human blood, vestigial remains of a time when his ancestors lived in Earth's oceans, would somehow recognize an alien poison and fight it. It seemed impossible. But humanity had built its entire history on doing impossible things. He just hoped they could do one more. Outside the medical bay, Suho and Hyejin were waiting. They had heard the news. Are you sure about this, Captain? Suho asked. No, Minho admitted. But I'm going to do it anyway. Hyejin nodded. Then we'll be there with you. Every step. Ambassador Yuna arrived within the hour. She was angry. Minho could see it in every line of her body. She cornered him in the corridor outside medical bay. This is foolishness, she said. Human arrogance. You know nothing about our biology. I know that Hana is dying, and I know I might be able to help. Might. You might kill her faster. She made the choice. It's her life, Yuna stepped closer. If this fails, Captain, I will make sure everyone knows. Humans will be blamed. These talks will end. If this succeeds, Minho said quietly, maybe these talks will become something real, something that matters. Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away without another word. Minho watched her go, then headed toward medical bay. Daeun was ready for him. The compatibility tests could begin. They had less than a day left. It was time to find out if human blood could save an alien life. Day 3 came too fast. Minho woke to an urgent message from Daeun. Hana was failing. The crystals had reached her internal organs. She had hours, maybe less. He dressed quickly and ran to medical bay. The corridors were quiet in the early morning station cycle. His footsteps echoed off the metal walls. When he burst through the medical bay doors, he found chaos. The Valari delegation crowded the room. Ji-won stood beside Hana's pod, tears streaming down her face. Daeun worked frantically at the medical console, but her movements had the desperate quality of someone who knew it was too late. Ambassador Yuna stood in the corner, her face like stone. Hana was barely visible inside the pod. The crystals covered her completely now. She looked like a statue made of ice and glass. Only her eyes still moved, tracking slowly around the room. The compatibility tests, Minho said to Daeun. What did they show? Daeun did not look at him. It does not matter now. We are out of time. What did they show? 60% compatibility, Daeun said quietly. Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. There is a 40% chance your blood will trigger fatal rejection. But yes, the antibodies are there. They recognize the poison structure. Then we try, Minho said. It is too late, Ambassador Yuna said from the corner. Her voice was cold. We have begun the death rites. Hana has accepted her fate. I haven't accepted it, Minho said. You have no say in this matter, human. Minho looked at Hana through the pod. Her eyes found his. Even through the crystals, even through the pain, he could see the question there. She was asking him without words. Are you sure? Are you really going to do this? He gave the smallest nod. Hana's eyes closed, then opened again. She was nodding back. Yes. Try. Daeun, Minho said. Set it up. Captain, the ambassador said, and the ambassador is not the patient. Hana is, and Hana made her choice yesterday. Minho walked to the medical equipment storage. Where is the transfusion equipment? Daeun stood frozen between duty and orders. Then she moved. Here, I will set it up. You will do no such thing, Yuna said sharply. Daeun, I forbid this. Forgive me, Ambassador, Daeun said, pulling out tubing and connectors. But I am a doctor first. My patient has chosen treatment. I will provide it. Yuna's expression darkened, but she said nothing more. She simply turned and left the medical bay, the door closing hard behind her. The other Valari watched in silence. Ji-won wiped her eyes and stepped closer. Do you really think this will work? I don't know, Minho admitted. But I'm going to try. Daeun worked quickly, setting up the transfusion system. She opened a section of Hana's pod and inserted the connection port into Hana's arm. The crystals there had to be carefully broken away to reach a vein. Each crack of crystal made Hana flinch with pain. This is going to hurt, Daeun warned. For both of you. The transfusion must be slow to give her body time to adapt. 4 hours minimum. I understand, Minho said. Daeun gestured to a chair beside the pod. Sit, give me your arm. Minho sat and rolled up his sleeve. Daeun cleaned the skin with a cold solution that smelled sharp and strange. She held up the needle. It was larger than human medical needles designed for Valari physiology. This is your last chance to reconsider, Daeun said. I'm not reconsidering. Daeun inserted the needle. Minho felt the sting. Then the strange pulling sensation as the tube filled with his blood. Dark red. Human. About to flow into an alien body and either save it or kill it. Suho and Hyejin entered the medical bay. They had heard what was happening. They took up positions on either side of Minho, silent support. Starting transfusion, Daeun announced. She pressed a control, and Minho's blood began to flow through the clear tubing, red against white, moving toward Hana. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Minho watched his blood travel through the tubes, disappear into Hana's arm. The crystals around the insertion point seemed to shine brighter, reflecting the red. Then Hana's eyes snapped open. She gasped, her back arching inside the pod. What's happening? Minho asked. Daeun checked her monitors. Her body is reacting to the foreign blood. This is expected. But we need to monitor carefully. Hana's breathing came faster. Minho could see her hands clenching inside the pod. The crystals across her skin seemed to pulse with each heartbeat. Is she in pain? Minho asked. Yes, Daeun said simply. Significant pain. Her immune system is trying to understand what is entering her body. Can you give her something for it? Not without risking interaction with your blood chemistry. She must endure this. Minho watched Hana struggle. He wanted to tell her it would be okay. that she just had to hold on, but he did not know if any of that was true. He could only sit there and bleed into her. 10 minutes passed. 20. Hana's convulsions slowed. Her breathing steadied. Dawn leaned closer to her instruments. The crystallization, Dawn whispered. It is not spreading. What? Look, Dawn pointed to a scan display. The crystals in her chest. They are not growing. The rate has stopped. Minho felt his heart leap. That's good, right? It is promising. It means the poison is being neutralized faster than it is spreading. But it is too early to know if the crystals will recede. Jiwan moved closer to the pod. Hana, can you hear me? Hana's eyes opened. She looked at Jiwan and managed a weak nod. You are doing well, Jiwan said softly. Stay with us. The hours crawled by. Minho sat still, feeling the pull of blood leaving his body. He started to feel dizzy around the 2-hour mark. Heejin noticed and brought him water. He drank it gratefully. How are you feeling, Captain? Suho asked. Tired, lightheaded, but okay. Your blood pressure is dropping, Daeun warned. We need to slow the transfusion. No, Minho said. Keep it going. We don't have time to take this slow. Captain, if you lose too much blood, then I'll be weak for a few days. Hana will be dead forever. Keep going. Daeun hesitated, then nodded. The transfusion continued. At 3 hours, something changed. The crystals on Hana's arms began to dim. Not much, just slightly, but enough to notice. Daeun made a sound that might have been surprise or hope. What? Minho asked. The crystals. They are receding. Are you sure? Look at her hands, Daeun pointed. Minho looked. The crystals that had covered Hana's fingers were smaller. Patches of her natural blue-gray skin were visible again, and underneath that skin the faintest glow was returning. It's working, Jiwan said. She pressed her hands against the pod. It's actually working. Around the medical bay, the Valari staff began to gather closer. They had been staying back, giving space, but now they could not resist. They watched the monitors, watched Hana, watched this impossible thing happening before them. At 4 hours, Daeun stopped the transfusion. That is enough. More would be dangerous for both of you. The tube disconnected from Minho's arm. He felt the pressure release and immediately slumped back in the chair. The room spun. Heejin caught him before he fell. Easy, Captain, she said. You gave a lot of blood. Is she okay? Minho asked. His voice sounded distant to his own ears. Look, Suho said, pointing at the pod. The crystals were receding faster now. They crumbled away from Hana's skin like frost melting in sunlight. The glow beneath her skin grew brighter with each minute. Her breathing, which had been shallow and pained, deepened. Her eyes focused. Daeun worked at her console, scanning and rescanning. The poison is breaking down. The antibodies are attacking it. The crystallization is reversing. She looked up at Minho with an expression of pure disbelief. It worked. It actually worked. Minho tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. He stayed in the chair, watching as Hana slowly returned from the edge of death. The crystals on her chest broke apart. The ones on her face and neck faded. Within an hour, only small patches remained on her hands and feet. Hana opened her eyes fully for the first time in days. The light in them was bright and aware. She looked around the medical bay, saw all the Valari watching her, then found Minho slumped in his chair. You look terrible, she said. Her voice was weak but clear. Minho laughed, which made him dizzy again. You look pretty good, actually. I feel like I was turned to stone and then melted. That's basically what happened. Hana smiled. Then her eyes filled with tears. You saved my life. We're not done yet, Daeun warned. Your body still needs to process the foreign blood. There could be complications. But yes, the worst is past. The medical bay doors opened. Ambassador Yuna stood there. She had been monitoring everything from outside. Her expression was unreadable as she walked to Hana's pod. Ambassador, Hana said weakly. Yuna said nothing for a long moment. She just looked at Hana, then at Minho, then back at Hana. Finally, she spoke. Human medicine saved your life. Yes. I was wrong, Yuna said quietly, about many things, but especially about this. She turned to Minho. He tried to stand to face her properly, but she gestured for him to stay seated. You risked your life for one of my people, Yuna said, when we had refused your help. When I had insulted your efforts, you did it anyway. She needed help, Minho said simply. That's all that mattered. Yuna studied him for a long moment. Then she did something no human had ever seen a Valari do. She bowed, low and respectful. On behalf of my people, she said. I thank you. Minho bowed back, though it made his head swim. The crisis was over. Hana would live, but Minho knew this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Recovery was not instant. Recovery was slow and painful and filled with uncertainty. Minho spent the first 12 hours after the transfusion in the medical bay's human section. Dayun had insisted. He had given too much blood too quickly and his body needed time to recover. He slept poorly, waking every hour to ask about Hana. The nurses grew tired of his questions but answered patiently each time. She was stable. She was resting. She was alive. When he finally was allowed to leave his bed, he went immediately to see her. Suho tried to make him eat first, but Minho waved him off. Food could wait. Hana was awake when he entered her section. The pod had been opened. She sat up in a regular medical bed now, looking more like a patient and less like someone frozen in crystal. The glow beneath her skin was still dim, but it was there, steady, real. You should be resting, she said when she saw him. So should you. I have been doing nothing but resting. Hana gestured to the chair beside her bed. Sit before you fall down. You look pale. Minho sat gratefully. His legs were still weak. How are you feeling? Strange. My body feels different. Heavy in some places, light in others. She held up her hand, studying it. Dayun says I still have your antibodies in my blood. They are fighting the last traces of the poison. It will take days for them to fully clear my system. And then? And then I will be the first Valari to have survived Velshara poisoning away from our homeworld. Also the first to carry human blood markers. She smiled. I will be studied for years. Is that a good thing? I am a scientist. Being studied does not bother me. Her smile faded. But it means I can never forget what happened. Or who saved me. You would have done the same for me. Would I? Hana looked at him seriously. I am not certain. Before this, I thought I understood humans. I read your history, your biology, your culture. I thought I knew what to expect from your species. But I did not expect this. I did not expect someone to cut themselves open for a stranger. We're not strangers anymore. No, Hana agreed. I suppose we are not. Jiwon entered carrying a tray of food. She smiled when she saw Minho. Good, you are both awake. The doctor said you both need to eat. She set the tray down. It had 2 meals, 1 clearly human food, 1 Valari. They sent human food? Minho asked, surprised. I requested it, Jiwon said. You saved Hana. The least we can do is feed you properly. She bowed slightly and left them alone. They ate in comfortable silence. Minho's meal was simple. Protein and vegetables, but it tasted better than anything he had eaten in days. Hana picked at her food, which glowed faintly blue. I have been thinking, Hana said eventually, about who poisoned me. Have they found anything? No, the investigation has found nothing. Whoever did it was very careful. She set down her food. But I know it was one of my own delegation. It had to be. The poison is too rare, too controlled. Only someone with access to Valari government resources could obtain it. That's terrifying. Yes. It means someone I work with, someone I trusted, tried to kill me. To make a political statement, Hana's hands clenched, and they almost succeeded. But they didn't. You're alive. Because of you. Because a human had a vestigial protein from ancient Earth evolution that just happened to be similar enough to my own biology to create antibodies that could fight an alien poison. Hana laughed, but there was no humor in it. The odds of that are so small. If you had not looked, if you had not cared enough to search, I would be dead right now. A lot of people looked. Suho, Heejin, half the medical staff, but you started it. You refused to accept my death. Hana met his eyes. Why? Tell me truly. We barely knew each other. Our species are barely allies. Why did you care so much? Minho thought about the question. He had been asking himself the same thing for 3 days. Because I hate waste, and watching someone die when there might be a way to save them is the worst kind of waste. You're brilliant. You have decades of life ahead of you, work to do, things to discover. Letting you die without trying everything felt wrong. So it was practical, saving a useful person. No, Minho shook his head. That's not it. Even if you were not a scientist, even if you were no one important, I would have done the same thing. Because every person matters. Every life has value just by existing. Hana was quiet for a long moment. That is a very human way of thinking. Is it different for your people? We value the collective over the individual. A life matters because of what it contributes to society. If I were not a scientist, if I contributed nothing, my people would mourn less. She paused. I do not know if I agree with that anymore. The door opened again. Turn entered with several scanning devices. Apologies for interrupting, but I need to run more tests. Hana, how is your pain level? Lower. I feel sore, but not the sharp pain from before. Good. That means the crystallization is fully stopped. Dayun began scanning Hana with different instruments. Captain Minho, you should return to your quarters. You need real rest. I'm fine here. You are not fine. Your blood count is still low. You need to sleep in a proper bed and eat proper meals. Dayun gave him a stern look. Do not make me have you carried out. Minho stood reluctantly. All right. But someone tells me if anything changes. I will tell you, Hana promised. Thank you for visiting. As Minho left, he heard Dayun begin explaining test results to Hana. Something about antibody levels and cellular regeneration. Medical terms he did not fully understand. But Hana's voice sounded stronger. That was what mattered. Suho and Hyejin were waiting in the corridor outside. They had been taking shifts, making sure someone was always nearby in case Minho or Hana needed anything. How is she? Suho asked. Better. Talking. Eating. The doctors seemed pleased. Minho started walking toward his quarters, his crew falling in beside him. Has there been any news about the investigation? Nothing public, Hyejin said. But I have been hearing whispers. Some of the Valari delegation are being questioned. There is tension among them. Someone tried to kill her to stop human-Valari cooperation, Minho said, and instead a human saved her life. They must be furious. Or terrified, Suho suggested. If you can do this, what else can humans do? That thought sat heavy in Minho's mind as they reached his quarters. He thanked his crew and went inside, collapsing onto his bed. His body felt like it weighed twice as much as normal. The blood loss, Dayun had explained, would take days to fully recover from. He closed his eyes and slept. No dreams, just darkness and rest. When he woke, 16 hours had passed. His communicator was full of messages. Most were from Earth, friends and family who had heard about what happened. A few were from other human ships in the sector. One was from the station commander requesting a meeting, and one was from Ambassador Yuna. He read that one first. It was brief. Captain Minho, please meet me in conference room 7 at your convenience. We have much to discuss. Minho showered, dressed, and forced himself to eat a full breakfast. Then he made his way to conference room 7. Ambassador Yuna was already there, along with several other Valari he did not recognize. They all stood when he entered. Captain, Yuna said, thank you for coming. Please sit, Minho sat. The Valari remained standing for a moment longer, then sat as well. It felt formal, important. I will be direct, Yuna said. What you did for Hana has changed many minds among my people. Not all minds, but enough. There are those who still distrust humanity, but they cannot deny that you saved a life we could not save ourselves. I just did what anyone would do. No. That is where you are wrong. Not anyone would do what you did. Most would have accepted our refusal of help. Most would have let us handle our own problems. Yuna folded her hands on the table. You did not. And in doing so, you have proven something we needed to see. What's that? That humans care. Not about politics or resources or advantage. You care about people. Even alien people. Even when it costs you. Minho did not know what to say to that. Yuna continued. The delegation has voted. We are extending the diplomatic talks. We are opening discussions about medical research cooperation. And we are formally requesting that you remain as the human liaison for this project. Me? I'm not a diplomat. No. But you are someone both species can trust. Yuna smiled. A subtle expression for Valari, but genuine. Hana specifically requested you. She says if anyone is going to help build bridges between our people, it should be the human who gave his blood to save a Valari life. Minho felt the weight of that responsibility settle on his shoulders. I don't know if I'm the right person for this. Neither do I, Yuna admitted. But I think we should find out. The meeting continued for an hour. They discussed timelines, resources, goals. By the end, Minho had agreed to stay on the station for at least 6 more months, serving as a liaison between the species. It was not what he had planned for his career, but it felt right. When he returned to medical bay, Hana was out of bed, walking slowly around the room with Ji-won's support. She smiled when she saw him. "You look better," she said, "so do you."
Walking already?
Daeun says I need to rebuild strength. The poison damaged my muscles as well as my organs. Hana paused in her walking. "I heard about the ambassador's offer. Are you going to accept?" "I already did." "Good. I would hate to do all this medical research alone." Hana's glow brightened slightly. "We have work to do, Captain. Your blood saved my life. Now we need to understand how. We need to document it. We need to see if this compatibility exists in other humans and Valari. This could change 2 weeks after the transfusion." Hana was released from medical observation. The crystals were completely gone. Her skin glowed with its natural soft light. Only a small scar on her arm marked where the transfusion had connected, a reminder of how close she had come to death. Minho met her at the medical bay exit. She wore traditional Valari clothing now, flowing robes that caught the light and shimmered. She looked healthy and strong. "Nothing like the dying woman from 2 weeks ago. Ready to get back to work?" he asked. "I have been ready for days." The doctors were being too cautious. Hana walked beside him down the corridor. "Where are we going?" "The new research lab. They set it up while you were recovering. It's specifically for our project." "Our project," Hana repeated. "I like the sound of that." The lab was in the science wing of the station, a large room filled with equipment from both human and Valari sources. Workstations lined the walls. Medical scanners stood beside chemistry equipment. It was a strange mix of technologies, but it worked. Suho and Hyejin were already there organizing files. Ji-won stood at one of the Valari workstations reviewing data. 2 human doctors Minho did not know well worked at another station. It was a mixed team, the first real collaboration between the species. "Welcome back," Ji-won said when she saw Hana. She rushed over and hugged her carefully. "We missed you." "I missed work," Hana said. "Medical bay is boring. You almost died." "Yes, but I did not. So now I can get back to being useful." Hana moved to the central workstation and pulled up displays. "Show me what you have found." For the next hour, the team presented their research. They had been analyzing Minho's blood samples and comparing them to Hana's. The results were fascinating. The human antibodies had not just fought the poison. They had actually bonded with Valari proteins in ways no one expected. "Look at this," one of the human doctors said, pointing to a molecular display. "The antibodies are still present in Hana's system. They are not being rejected. Her immune system has integrated them." "How is that possible?" Minho asked. "We do not know yet," Hana admitted. "But it suggests that human and Valari biology are more compatible than we thought. Not compatible enough to mate or share organs, but compatible enough to share immune responses. That's incredible. It is also dangerous," Ji-won added. "If this information becomes public before we understand it fully, there will be panic. People will worry about biological contamination. Others will try to weaponize it." The room went quiet. She was right. What had saved Hana could be twisted into something harmful in the wrong hands. "Then we keep it quiet," Minho said. "Just this team. We do the research properly and present findings only when we fully understand them." "Agreed," Hana said. "This is too important to rush." They worked through the day comparing data and running simulations. The more they discovered, the more questions arose. Why had evolution created such similar proteins in 2 species from different worlds? Was it just chance, or was there something fundamental about carbon-based life that created these patterns? At evening, the team broke for dinner. Most went to the station cafeteria, but Minho and Hana stayed behind. They sat in the quiet lab, eating simple meals and staring at the data displays. "This changes everything, you know," Hana said quietly. "What do you mean?" "Before this, we thought our species were too different, too alien to each other. That cooperation would always be difficult because we were fundamentally incompatible." She gestured at the displays. "But this proves we are not as different as we thought. At the molecular level, life follows similar patterns. That means maybe we can work together more than anyone imagined. Or it means the people who fear cooperation will fight harder," Minho said. "Someone already tried to kill you to stop these talks. They will not be happy that you survived." "I know." Hana's glow dimmed slightly. "The investigation is still ongoing. Daeun tells me they have suspects but no proof. Whoever did it covered their tracks well." "Does that scare you?" "Terrifies me," Hana admitted. I work alongside these people every day. I eat meals with them. I trust them with my research. And one of them wanted me dead. She paused. But I cannot let that fear stop me. If I do, they win. They prove that cooperation is impossible. You're brave. I am terrified, but I am stubborn. There is a difference, Hana smiled. Besides, I have human antibodies now. Maybe some of your stubbornness came with them. Minho laughed. That's not how antibodies work. Are you sure? You humans do impossible things all the time. Maybe stubbornness is genetic. They talked late into the night, discussing research and life and everything in between. It felt easy, natural. The crisis had bonded them in ways that went beyond professional courtesy. They had looked death in the face together and walked away. That created a connection that could not be undone. The next morning, Ambassador Yuna called a meeting. The entire delegation gathered, both human and Valari. The conference room was packed. Tension filled the air. Yuna stood at the head of the table. I have news about the investigation. We have identified the person who poisoned Hana. The room went completely silent. It was Taejin, Yuna said. One of our junior scientists. He has confessed. Minho did not know Taejin well, a quiet man who worked in the background, rarely speaking at meetings. He had seemed harmless. Why? Hana asked. Her voice was steady, but Minho could hear the pain underneath. He belongs to a political faction that opposes human contact. They believe your species is dangerous and unpredictable. They thought your death would prove it, would end these talks. Yuna's expression was grim. He was wrong. Your survival and the manner of it has done the opposite. Where is he now? In custody. He will be sent back to our homeworld for trial. The punishment for using Velshara for political murder is severe. What happens to us? Minho asked. To these talks? That is what I want to discuss. Yuna pulled up a display. The Valari Council has reviewed everything that happened. They have seen the medical data. They know that a human saved one of our best scientists using a treatment we did not believe possible. She paused. They are impressed. And concerned. Concerned about what? About what else humans might be capable of. About whether we have been underestimating your species. Yuna looked directly at Minho. You must understand, Captain. We Valari are proud. We consider ourselves advanced, logical, superior in many ways. Then you come along and save a life we could not save, using antibodies from ancient parasites in Earth oceans. It is humbling. It was luck, Minho said. Random evolutionary chance, was it? Or is it something more? A flexibility in human biology that we lack? Yuna shook her head. These are the questions keeping my council awake at night. And they want answers. So what does that mean for us? Hana asked. It means these talks continue. It means more cooperation, more research, more exchange of knowledge. But it also means more scrutiny. There are still those among my people who distrust humans. They will be watching everything we do, looking for reasons to end this partnership. Then we give them no reasons, Hana said firmly. We do good work. We prove that cooperation makes both our species stronger. Agreed, Minho said. The meeting continued with discussion of new projects and timelines. By the end, a plan was in place. Mixed teams would research biological compatibility. Others would study medical applications. Some would focus on cultural exchange to build understanding between species. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious. But for the first time, both species were truly trying. After the meeting, Minho found Hana standing at an observation window, looking out at the stars. She seemed lost in thought. Are you okay? He asked. I keep thinking about Taejin. He was my colleague. We worked together for months, and he hated me enough to poison me. She did not look away from the stars. How do I trust anyone now? You start small. You trust the people who have proven themselves, Jiwon, Dayun, me. I do trust you, perhaps more than I should. You are still mostly a stranger. Strangers do not share blood, Minho said. Hana finally looked at him. No, I suppose they do not. She smiled slightly. Thank you, Minho, for saving my life, yes. But also for giving me a reason to keep working. To keep believing this matters, it does matter. Look at what we have already accomplished. 2 species working together. That is worth all the risk, is it? Even if others try to stop us? Especially then, Minho said. Because it means they are scared. Scared that we will succeed. Scared that cooperation will work better than isolation. Fear makes people dangerous, but it also means we are doing something important. Hana nodded slowly. You are wise for a human who almost killed himself donating blood. I prefer optimistically reckless. She laughed, the sound filling the quiet corridor. It was good to hear her laugh again. They stood together at the window watching ships come and go from the station. Humans and Valari, working in the same space, trading goods and knowledge, building something new. It was fragile. One wrong move could shatter it. But it was real, and it was growing. Come on, Minho said eventually. We have a lot of work to do. Yes, Hana agreed. We do. They walked back to the lab together, two individuals from different worlds bound together by chance and choice. The work ahead would be difficult. There would be setbacks and opposition. But where before there had been separate human and Valari sections, now there were mixed areas. Shared labs, common dining spaces, recreation rooms where both species gathered after shifts. It was not perfect. There were still tensions, still awkward moments when cultural differences created confusion, but it was progress. Minho stood in the main research lab reviewing the latest data. The project had expanded beyond anyone's initial expectations. They were not just studying the blood compatibility anymore. They were mapping entire biological systems, finding connections between human and Valari physiology that opened new possibilities for medicine, for exploration, for understanding life itself. Hana entered the lab, G1 close behind. They were laughing about something, a private joke. It was good to see. 3 months ago, Hana had been dying. Now she was thriving. Her skin bright with health, her mind sharp as ever. We have the results from the latest round of testing, Hana announced, setting down a data pad. All 5 human volunteers show antibody production compatible with Valari proteins. All 3 Valari volunteers show tolerance for human antibodies. That is incredible, Minho said. It is not just us? No. It appears this compatibility exists across both populations. Not perfectly, not in everyone, but common enough to be significant. Hana pulled up charts. We are proposing a joint medical program, creating antibody banks, training doctors from both species. If this works, we could save lives that would otherwise be lost. The councils will need to approve it. They will. Ambassador Yuna is presenting it next week. Hana smiled. She has become quite the advocate for cooperation. 3 months ago, she threatened to end the talks if anything went wrong. 3 months ago, she had not seen what was possible. Now she has. Suho entered the lab with news. Captain, the supply ship from Earth has arrived. They are carrying something for you. What is it? They would not say. Just that you need to see it personally. Minho left the lab, curious. The docking bay was busy with unloading operations. Crates of supplies lined the deck. Human crew worked alongside Valari dock workers, a sight that would have been impossible months ago. A shipping container marked with his name sat apart from the others. Minho opened it carefully. Inside was a package wrapped in traditional human fabric. A note was attached. Captain Minho, this is from the families of the 5th Exploration Fleet. When they heard what you did, how you saved a life without hesitation, they wanted you to have this. It is a reminder that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our ships. It is our willingness to help those who need it. Congratulations. You represent the best of us. Minho unwrapped the package. Inside was a medal, simple, made of bronze and steel. It was not an official military decoration. It was something more personal. The words engraved on it were simple. For caring when it mattered. He held it for a long moment, feeling the weight of it. Not the physical weight, which was small. The weight of what it represented. Thousands of people on Earth had heard the story, had heard about a human captain who gave his blood to save an alien life, and they had wanted to honor that. Hyejin found him still standing there, holding the medal. News travels fast. Apparently, you are famous now, Captain. Every human in the sector knows your name. Some of the other species, too. What you did matters to people. I just did what needed doing. Yes, and that is why it matters. Hyejin smiled. Come on. Hana wants to show you something. Back in the lab, Hana had pulled up a new display. It showed the station from an external view. But something was different. There were new structures being built, extending from the main hub. What is that? Minho asked. A joint medical facility. Funded by both Earth and the Valari homeworld, it will be the first hospital designed for both species. We will have human doctors, Valari doctors, shared research labs, everything. Hana's glow brightened. And they want us to run it. Us? You and me, co-directors building something that has never existed before. She looked at him. What do you say? Minho looked at the image of the new facility, at Hana standing beside him, at the mixed crew working together in the lab. He thought about the metal in his pocket and what it represented. He thought about how one moment of choice, one decision to not give up, had led to all of this. I say yes, he said. Absolutely yes. The weeks that followed were busy. Construction on the medical facility began. More volunteers arrived from both species, eager to be part of the project. The story had spread beyond the station, beyond even this sector. A human had saved a Valari life. 2 species were learning to work together. Hope was spreading. Not everyone was pleased. There were protests on Earth and on the Valari homeworld. Groups that opposed cooperation, that wanted isolation. They called Minho a fool and Hana a traitor. Death threats arrived regularly. Security had to be increased. But for every voice of hate, there were 10 voices of support. Families who had lost loved ones to diseases asked if this new cooperation could lead to cures. Young people from both species applied to work at the station. Scientists shared data that had previously been classified. The momentum was building. 4 months after the transfusion, Ambassador Yuna held a ceremony. It was formal, attended by officials from both governments. The station's main hall was decorated with symbols from both cultures. Humans and Valari filled the seats, sitting together instead of in separate sections. Yuna stood at a podium. Hana and Minho stood beside her. 4 months ago, Yuna began, we nearly lost someone important. Hana, one of our finest scientists, was poisoned with Velshara. Our own people could not save her. We accepted her death as inevitable. The room was silent. Then Captain Minho refused to accept it. He researched. He searched. He found a possibility so small that any logical person would have dismissed it. And then he cut open his own palm and gave his blood to save an alien life. Yuna turned to Minho. Captain, what you did should have been impossible. But you are human. And humans, I have learned, do not respect impossible. Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. In recognition of your actions, the Valari Council has granted you a title. In our language, it is Kelthari. In yours, it means Lifekeeper. It is a title that has not been given to a non-Valari in over 1,000 years. It marks you as one who preserves life against all odds. Yuna held up a crystal pendant. It glowed with soft light, the same color as Valari skin. She placed it around Minho's neck. Wear this with pride, Kelthari. You have earned it. The crowd rose in applause, humans and Valari together. Honoring one man's refusal to give up, Minho felt overwhelmed. He had not done anything special. He had just tried to help. But looking out at the crowd, at the mixed species standing together, he realized it was not about him. It was about what his actions represented. A bridge between worlds. A proof that caring mattered more than differences. After the ceremony, Hana pulled him aside. They walked to their usual spot by the observation window, looking out at the stars. How does it feel to be a Kelthari? She asked. Terrifying, Minho admitted. Everyone expects so much now. You will live up to it. You already have. They stood in comfortable silence. Ships moved past the window, their running lights like stars in motion. Beyond them, the real stars burned, countless and distant. I have been thinking, Hana said quietly, about what comes next. The medical facility will be finished in 6 months. After that, what do? We run it. We help people. We keep building bridges. Yes, but I mean beyond that. This cannot stop with just us. With just this station. She looked at him. What you did for me, someone needs to do for others. Humans and Valari working together, finding solutions that neither species could find alone. You are talking about something bigger. Much bigger. Medical teams traveling to both our worlds. Research facilities on multiple stations. Eventually, maybe even joint colonies. Hana's glow brightened with excitement. Your antibodies saved my life. But the real discovery was not the antibodies. It was that we are compatible in ways we never imagined, ways that make us stronger together than apart. Minho considered that. It was ambitious. It would take years, maybe decades. There would be setbacks and failures. But the foundation was there now, built on one moment of impossible hope. We will need help, he said. Lots of it. We will have it. Look at how many people want to be part of this. Hana smiled. You started something, Minho. Something that will outlive both of us. We started it together. Yes, Hana agreed. Together. The weeks turned into months. The medical facility neared completion. The first joint medical team graduated. Doctors trained in both human and Valari techniques. Research papers were published, carefully explaining the biological compatibility without revealing anything that could be weaponized. The data spread through scientific communities on multiple worlds. On the day the medical facility officially opened, Minho and Hana stood at its entrance. The building was beautiful, a blend of human and Valari architectural styles. Inside, human and Valari patients would be treated side by side. Doctors would consult with each other, learning from different approaches. It was everything they had worked toward. Ready? Hana asked. No, Minho admitted. But let's do it anyway. They cut the ribbon together, human and Valari hands holding the same ceremonial blade.